You're welcome back. It is 7:10, and like we promised, at 7:10 we will start the session with our speaker, Ekow Mensah, who is a seasoned entrepreneurial, startup, and business coach, as well as an empowerment coach. He graced our PBI Live platform 2 weeks ago, where he gave us an insight into what is wrong in business creation and idea development in Africa. He focused on the what, the where, especially the where, and then the what. He focused and spoke about our exposure and on what is available and what is ready. He focused on our environment and how the environment inhibits us from creating good business ideas because we don't even know. And leading on from that, we are following up with a Zoom session where we have a private, more intimate conversation with entrepreneurs or startup managers, where they pick Ekow's brain on how to answer these questions that he raised in the Instagram Live session. So I will hand over to Ekow to start with the session, and then I will come in and help you at the end, towards the end, with some of the questions. However, if you do have any questions whilst he's speaking, feel free to raise your hand. We'll give you the opinion. We'll give you the option to ask your question live, or you can type the question in the chat box and we will read it out to Ekow. Okay, so Ekow, lovely to have you again. And I hand over to you to take us away.
Hello there. How are you guys doing? It's always a pleasure to come your way. I am loving what PBI is doing. I've always been about people development, and I think that's at the heart of Africa's development. We've gone through various stages of our transition, and now we are at the stage where Africans need to take control of Africa. And we can only do that when we have a transformation of our mindset, we have a development of our private sector, and we have ownership of our industry. So I'm so excited to be part of this journey, and I'm looking forward to how we could help everyone that joins to build their businesses, build their ideas, and collectively transform Africa. So welcome to the second session of PBI engagement. So today basically is for us to engage, ask questions, throw in some ideas, try and dialogue, and then see if we could get to a point where you leave with solutions, ideas, concepts that you can easily apply, and then see, things happening in your life and in your business. So I'm open to questions. Like Ellen said, you could put it in the chat box, or you can just raise your hand, we'll call you. You can ask any question around business, ideas, building a business, challenges you are likely to face, how to overcome those challenges, mindset, anything. Just ask me. If I don't know, I'll just tell you where to find the answer. So thank you. Did you hear me? Was I audible enough?
Very audible, Ekow.
Okay, great. Great.
Maybe Eleanor,
so where do we start from?
We can start by asking our own questions, Eleanor.
Yes, please. So the one thing that people asked after our conversation on Instagram was about the unity and creating a unified market. Indeed, just yesterday, there was a question on how to create that unified market. I tried to bring that after, and the person mentioned that there were challenges with after. And so what are some of your thoughts on after?
Well, I don't think there's any transformational policy that is intercontinental or inter-country, or any transformational policy that involves different countries that will not face challenges. Because first of all, Africa is one of the most diverse continents in the world. We don't recognize that we are so different, even though the world thinks that we are one country, but we are so different. We are made up of 54 very different countries, different people, different mindsets, and then, different agendas. So trying to unify all of us so that we can leverage on the strength of our collective markets will not be easy, especially when you're telling people that get rid of your currency, get rid of your, all the restrictions, your borders and everything, and then just open it up for everyone who wants to trade. So you should recognize that with every transformational policy that involves different countries would come challenges, mainly because of our diversity and differences. And then, of course, also because of what we are all looking for ourselves. Intrinsically, everyone is selfish. Every country is selfish. Every individual is selfish. We are all looking out for ourselves, even for those people that think that they are so impact driven. Your fulfillment comes from doing good. So by doing good, you are still looking out for yourself. So because of that, there will definitely be challenges. What I believe we should look out for is, what do we all want? And that's at the heart of what our biggest challenges are. African countries generally do not have a collective vision. And it's mainly because democracy was prematurely introduced to us. Democracy thrives when people are able to make decisions on their own, when people are able to think on their own. So then they know that if they collectively decide who should lead them, then whoever they choose would be the one that can really drive the development of the country. But unfortunately, when you bring democracy in the midst of lack, in the midst of illiteracy, in the midst of confusion and all that, it tends to be very challenging in its implementation. So because of that, everybody is looking out for themselves. We don't have like a collective, we don't have individual country vision. So then it's very difficult to have a collective continental vision that everybody has a buy-in that speaks to what their needs are. So then in identifying where we would all benefit from after, of course, there'll be challenges. Look at it. If there's a country that is really like, compare Nigeria to Ghana, for instance. If you open Ghana markets to Nigeria, it will be flooded. And Ghanaians would not, even be able to trade because Nigerians are very aggressive. And even with our current restrictions and all those things, they are literally even in the retail industry, even when it is illegal. So then imagine if our borders are widely open and then they can just come here and trade. Ghanaians would actually be out of business because they'll be more aggressive, their margins will be lower, and then they'll be able to outcompete everyone that stands in their way. So I know that there are challenges with AfTA, but it's only because every country is looking out for themselves. Democracy is also making it difficult for us to have collective buy-in into this policy. And of course, our economic strengths are also not the same. So then how do we now all agree that we are going to have one uniform market, one currency, and everybody can just go into anybody's country and then trade? We are all different. Some are rich, some are poor, some are more educated, some are less educated, and all that constitutes to the challenges that we are facing with AfTA. And I don't envision that it would be over I think it would take about the next 10 years to properly even things out and then have the collective buy-in of everybody and understand that it is not just about making money in Ghana, but Ghanaians can make money in Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, and it would just be like making money even in Ghana. So now we have to have the mindset of Africa as a country to make it work. But as long as it's a continent with different countries, it will be very, very difficult. We probably have to look at the United States and how how the system is so decentralized, but it also has a central government. So unless Africa has a central government where we have just one president for all countries, I think it would be very difficult to be able to implement AfTA smoothly. But I'm sure we'll get there. They are making some considerable progress. And when we get rid of the borders, we improve transportation, we make the cost of trading across Africa cheaper than the cost of trading across, to the Europe or to America or to Asia. If we make that cheaper, then it would make sense for us to really, implement AfTA well. But as long as it's very expensive to even move around Africa by Africans, we'll still have challenges. Okay. I don't know if I've answered. I think I've gone round.
No, yes, you have. But the answer that you gave raised a second question, is that the Ghanaian market is very small, which is one thing you talked about, is the ownership of our markets, and the market is very small. So if you have a big idea or a big project that requires you to invest in a factory, however, the market size in Ghana right now, they say that people with the spending power in Ghana are less than 10 million. And yet in Nigeria, same classification of people, is you're talking 35 to 40 million people. How will investing in a $500,000 factory in Ghana without having access to that Nigerian market benefit the investor or the entrepreneur?
Okay, so see, there are fundamentals of business that I think we all should be aware of. Business is driven by only two things: demand and supply. Demand and supply. I mean, basically, these are the two fundamental pillars of business. In the absence of demand, there will be no supply. And in the absence of supply, everything is going to go, too expensive. Because at the end of the day, the little that we have, there's so much demand on it that we can't even afford it anymore. So demand and supply drives markets. So if you want to set up a factory in Ghana, the question is, what is the factory producing and who needs this? Let's take a commodity like cocoa or cocoa, all right? The demand on cocoa is so big globally that no matter what, it would be patronized. So even if you are in a small economy like Ghana and your cocoa industry is so big because the world needs it. So the world is giving you demand for which you will have to supply. So right now, even in Ghana, when you look at our cocoa industry, internally, we are competing to be able to process the cocoa into like finished products for which we can get a lot more money compared to exporting the entire cocoa outside to people who demand it, who would pay us for that, but it's in its raw state. So then the value of it is not as much as if it was in a refined state. But as long as there's demand, regardless of where you are in this world, no matter where you are, demand will find you. So then that's one of the things that you need to, anybody that is listening wants to build a multinational, wants to build a conglomerate, wants to build a big business, you need to be aware of this demand and supply. And that's why every time we're talking about ideas, we're asking you, where is the need or where is the problem? Because an idea, no matter how exciting it is useless in the absence of needs or problems. You can have the most exciting idea, the most brilliant idea, but when nobody needs it, it's useless. Okay, so you need to always use the need or the problem and people's willingness to solve that problem. And because of that, they wanting to patronize whatever you're doing as something that you use to determine whether or not you should go into any business at all. In the absence of need or problem, there is no demand. And in the absence of demand, there is no business. Because businesses are only set up to supply to a demand. And the world is so globalized that regardless of where you find yourself, as long as you're doing something that the world wants, you will definitely have markets. But the problem is the moment you start doing something that the world wants, knowing that the world now wants this, people will start getting into it. And that's where competition comes to draw down the prices. So that's why you need to let the market determine its prices. Because when governments try to control the market and subsidize things, that's where we actually suffer more. And that's what African countries were doing. We're subsidizing everything. So we weren't actually feeling the cost of some of the things that we're using. So when all those subsidies were being taken away, then we felt as if, Charlie, things are getting expensive. But things were always expensive. We're just subsidizing them. We're not allowing the market. And this is a challenge with socialist way of governance, because the capitalists, they're always looking at demand and supply, and they thrive on profits. But the socialist is about, we are all not the same economically, so let's create the environment where everybody gets equal opportunity and all those things. But you see, life is not fair. So the truth about business is that the aim is to make profit by providing something that people need. So that's the truth. If you're doing something in Ghana needed by people all over the world, there would be the opportunity to supply that. it's even government will come in to make sure you're supplying that. But the moment there's a competitive or complementary product that solves the same need and is cheaper for people to access, your business is gone. Like Blockbuster, it was one of the biggest industries in the world. I mean, biggest companies in the world. And then Netflix came and they were gone just like that. So it doesn't really matter how big or how viable or how good your business is at the moment. What's important is the need there? Will the need be there for a long time? And are people willing to pay a premium for the solution to this need? And when you're able to determine that, those are the market dynamics. And it doesn't matter where you set up your factory, it will still thrive.
Thank you very much. Okay. So for those who didn't listen to us last week, this was a recap of what happened last week. And the questions I asked were strategically asked to help him to give us an overview of what he taught us 2 weeks ago. Now, Ekow, for this session, we are going to go practical. And like I mentioned, we're going to develop a business case for a donut factory. Now, I use donut because a lot of our participants today, I'm not Ghanaian, but if we had Ghanaian participants, I would have mentioned buffruit and everybody would understand what I mean. So to my international listeners, buffruit in Ghana it's a donut that is sold by the roadside, by hawkers on the street. And it is patronized by all kinds of people. And so the reason why we are using that is because of how much of the market it cuts across, right? The price of the donut is in such a way that it can serve the needs of the poor. And then because of its unique taste and demand, it can go all the way to the president. And so that's why we are using that particular type of donuts called buffruit in Ghana. Now, Ekow.
Mm-hmm. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I have started my life and I realized that my mom gave me a good donut recipe.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I make it, my friends are always like, this is a good recipe. You should start a business. And now I've decided that I'm going to start a business selling these donuts.
Mm-hmm.
All I have is the recipe and a kitchen in my house. How do I develop the idea for this business?
Okay. So first of all, like you said, your mom gave you a recipe that is amazing. But if just 2 people are saying it's amazing, you don't have a business yet. Okay. So I'm going to break this into 3 different things. Like every business has 3 different makeup. The first one is the hobby kind of business. The ones that we do because like you have a donut recipe and you're excited about it and you want people to, experience it because you love it so much. The second kind of business is the one that you do because you've identified an opportunity and you want to maximize that opportunity. So you exert your skills, your resources and everything into making the opportunity happen. And the third kind of business is the investment-driven business, where you've seen that, Charlie, there is some industry or some products that is doing very well. So you go for some lump sum of money, put it into that industry, and then you capture the market. So these are the 3 types of businesses that you're likely to see anywhere in the world. Okay, and these are my own descriptions, so you can probably Google it and then you see it. But from my years of doing this, these are the 3 categories of businesses I've seen. The hobby business that is purely driven by love, the opportunity business that is purely driven by market opportunity that exists, and the investment kind of business that is driven by pumping money into a product or a service that works. Okay, so currently, everybody drinks water. So anybody that has enough money and goes into the water business and does a lot of PR and branding well would make money. It's automatic, and that's the investment kind of business. So for instance, for buffruit, you need to figure out, okay, what kind of business do you want to build? Are you building a business for the love of building the business because the recipe is amazing and you want people to experience it? So that's when you start doing it in small portions for certain events and activities in and around the family and friends. All right. So maybe there's a family gathering, you do some, people love it. They give you feedback, they give you compliments. out of the gathering, somebody wants to do an event, they call you to do some for them. Another person will taste it from their event, and it keeps going. So hobby kind of business is purely driven by referrals. It's purely driven by referrals. It's not mostly those kinds of business even grow when the people that were doing it were not initially thinking that it has to be a business. They just either love the recipe or they love cooking, so they love baking. So they do it, people enjoy it, initially probably for free, and then people start ordering it. And you realize that now you have to even think, how much am I charging per donut? So now that's where you start actually doing business by figuring out what your cost is and then what your selling price should be. So as the orders keep coming, you realize that, oh, this is a good idea. This is a good, business. So let me put in some efforts to expand it. That's when you actually get into doing business. So depending on what type of business, your stats will be different. Let's say you've already done your market research and you realize that, like Elinam said, donuts is so sought after. Remember, demand and supply, right? So if you've already done some sort of a market research, and in Africa or particularly in Ghana, and I'm sure Africa is so similar but so diverse at the same time. The best market research is just being observant. You just have to open your eyes, like we say, and then see what is moving. So when you realize what is moving in the market, then that is opportunity seeking. So then the moment you see it, you start exerting yourself, your experience, and your little resources into getting into that. All right. So then you realize that the demand is already there. And the moment you start, people already are ordering it. That is when you start now putting a bit more investment and then reinvesting your profits. So you keep reinvesting your profit, and expanding the operation into a system that can be automated, because it is only in automation that it can be exponential growth. In the absence of automation, there cannot be any exponential growth, and there cannot be continuity. Okay, I don't have any PowerPoint, so please, I hope you record it so you can, listen later. Anything that cannot be automated, we cannot have exponential growth. So when you look at KFC, they've automated their process. So regardless of where you go, except if the taste buds of the country they are going is a bit different, then they add a bit of recipe. And that's why you realize that KFC in Ghana is different from KFC in the US, in the UK, in Asia, and all that. It's the process is the same, but they've just added a bit or taken away a bit of the finished product because of the taste buds of where they are going. But when you look at things like McDonald's, and that's why McDonald's has not still expanded to other African countries, because our taste buds are so different, So when you look at McDonald's, they've automated their process so they can have exponential growth. So that is the difference between a mindset to build a big business and a mindset to just get by or enjoy what you're doing. So when you figure out what the market size is, and then you look at your process from raw material, acquisition of raw material, to production of the product, to distribution, to getting it to the final consumer, you ensure that you're automating the entire process, because that is the only point that you can really rapidly grow it into a big business. Now, when you figure that out, you add a bit of innovation that makes you stand out, because if there's demand, then there's competition. Evidence of demand is in the competition. If there's no competition, don't be too excited, because some people think that, this thing is not being done, so let me just do it. No, be careful. In the absence of competition, it's probably a reflection that there's no demand. All right. And if you don't have enough money to do like a campaign that will grow the demand, don't get into it. All right. So when you automate the process and all those things, and then now it's just a matter of making your clients happy. All right. And there are two types of clients. We have the internal clients and we have the external clients. And normally when we talk about clients, we only talk about the external clients. And those are people that actually pay for your product or service. But there are people that actually make the product or service happen. And they are also internal clients, i.e. employees. If the two people are not happy, your business will not grow. Okay, so as you are figuring out the process, you are making your clients happy. Now you need to now figure out what your growth strategy would be. Okay, the growth strategy will now determine what type of business you are eventually going to be. And growth strategy comes with how you're going to attract investment into this system that you have built. Okay, a lot of investors love systems and processes because it is only at that point that there's exponential growth. And it's within exponential growth that you make enough dividends on your investments. So I don't know if you are getting it or I'm actually all over the place, but I see that there's a remaining time. So are we going to go off and come back?
Yes,
Yes,
we are going and coming back.
Okay, all right, great. So basically, I hope you are getting it because sometimes when I'm talking, it feels like I am overwhelming my audience. So
no, I'm following very well, and as usual, I would give the rundown. Just keep going.
Great. So the 3 stages is what actually informs the kind of business you're eventually going to have. So I'm now on the 3rd stage. The 3rd stage is when you have a proven track record of sales. You have a system that ensures the continuity of production. You have a system that drives your distribution. You have a system that ensures that you're getting feedback and consistently improving and innovating. And at that point, all you need to do is to grow. And growth comes in with other people's money. And other people's money could be 2, clients or investors. Some people never take investment because they themselves, they have enough money to put into the business. But what that means is that they themselves are their own investors. People's money is what ensures exponential growth in business. People's money. And when we come back, I'll talk about the 3rd type of business, which is the investment-driven business. And I hope that we'll get to learn a lot. This evening will be exciting. All right, so let's go and come back. And then we'll continue.
All right, thank you so much. We'll be logging in with the same details, so just log out and log back. See you soon.